Hello and welcome to Afaria 3.11, Configuration Policies for iOS Devices. At the end of this course, you'll be able to create an Apple iOS configuration policy, create a passcode policy, create a restrictions policy, create an email policy, create a Wi-Fi policy, create a web clip policy, and learn how to deploy policies. To work with configuration policies from the main menu in the Policies panel, click on Configuration. To create a new policy, in the menu bar, click on New, and in the drop-down list, select Configuration and then iOS. Enter a description for the policy. Here we'll use iOS Standard Configuration Policy. Next, open the MDM Payload List box. In this list box, this is where you can select some of the different policy types, such as passcode, restrictions, or Exchange Active Sync, which is used for email configurations. Click on the Save button to quickly save your policy, and from there, you can go back to the policy to update it. Now that you've created a policy and saved it, you can add additional configurations to the policy. Find your policy and edit it. In the MDM Payload List box, select Passcode. Click on the Add button to add a new passcode policy. Note that Apple supports only one passcode policy per device, so you can't bundle multiple policies together. This is also true of restrictions, Exchange Active Sync, and advanced policies. The other policy types could support multiple policies, such as WebClip, Wi-Fi, and VPN. You can enable or disable the policy, but would probably always want to leave this box checked. The Allow Simple Value checkbox allows a simple 4-digit passcode, which is not recommended. There are existing programs available from iTunes that could break the passcode access, so best practices dictate that a strong passcode of at least 6 digits is recommended, perhaps with one or more complex characters. Set the minimum passcode to 6 digits. Complex characters determines the number of characters outside of digits and the letters A through Z that would be required. This would include special characters such as the @ sign or the % sign. Passcode age is the maximum value in days that's allowed before a passcode change is required. Setting this to 90 would require a change every 90 days. Auto-lock is a value in minutes that is the maximum amount of inactive time the device will allow prior to automatically locking itself. The values for Apple devices are from none to 5 minutes. Here we are setting it to 5, so after 5 minutes the device will automatically lock itself. A user could unlock the device with their passcode. Passcode history is the number of passcodes that cannot be reused. By setting this to 12 and by setting the passcode age to 90 days, a passcode must be changed every 90 days but cannot be reused within a 3-year period, which is 90 days, or 4 times per year, and at 12 times, this would be 3 years. Grace period for lock is the amount of time the device remains locked after an invalid passcode results in a device lock. If you enter an invalid passcode after the maximum number of failed attempts value, the device locks itself and remains locked for the time value set in this box, even if you know the correct passcode. So in this example, after 10 failed attempts, the device will lock and remain locked for 1 hour. Maximum number of failed attempts is the counter used to track invalid passcode entries. This is essentially your 3 strikes and you're out parameter. Within a contiguous entry of invalid passcode entries, this counter is incremented, and when you hit this value, the device locks for the duration of time set in the previous field, grace period for lock. Once you've completed your passcode policy entries, click on Save to save the policy. Now that you've created a policy and saved it, you can add additional configurations to the policy. Find your policy and edit it. In the MDM payload list, select Restriction. Click on Add to add restrictions to the policy. Within the Device Functionality group, there are numerous options to select. If you uncheck Allow Installing Apps, this would block the device from installing any apps. If you deploy this policy, make sure you've already downloaded and installed any apps you'd like prior to deploying the restriction. You can also disable the camera or the use of FaceTime, and you can turn off the screen print and screen capture features as well. Now, many people don't know this, but Siri is not actually on the device. Siri is an application with back-end servers that exist in Apple systems. As you ask Siri questions, you're actually transmitting and receiving data, and the server records and processes your voice requests. Additionally, the ACLU has expressed concern that Siri was sending a large amount of personal voice and user information to Apple, including the first name and nickname of the phone owner and his or her contacts, the owner's relationship with those contacts, personal labels associated to the email accounts, and the names of songs and playlists stored on the phone. Accordingly, many enterprises have chosen to turn off this feature for their enterprise phones. Additional choices include allowing in-app purchases, forcing the use of the iTunes password, and options related to gaming. In-app purchases are bonus game levels and maps, additional experience points, subscriptions, and recurring services. The Applications group allows restriction options for YouTube, using the iTunes Store for purchases, and even restricting the browser Safari. When you disable these features, the icon disappears on the device, and the user can't re-enable it. YouTube, for example, just disappears. To re-enable it, you'd have to update and redeploy the policy. iCloud is Apple's cloud storage solution, but can't be secured. Accordingly, most enterprises choose to disable the service to protect enterprise data. The Security and Privacy group controls restrictions for diagnostic data, TLS certificates, and to enforce encrypted backups. Backups are still done within the iTunes desktop application, and iCloud is not recommended because it can't be secured. So, it may be very important to ensure that backups are encrypted, and checking this box forces iTunes backups to be fully encrypted. Content restrictions control content ratings for movies and TV shows and are administered through the adherence to the Classification and Ratings Administration, also known as CARA, and implemented by the Motion Picture Association of America. These are the standard movie and TV ratings which we're all familiar with. You can also control whether apps can be installed or allow a quota. When complete, save your policy. Creating an email policy works the same for both Microsoft Exchange servers and for Lotus Notes. Once again, edit your policy, open the MDM payload list, and select Exchange ActiveSync. You'll select this type for either Microsoft Exchange or Lotus Note email servers. Click on Add to create your policy. Enter your server name of the host server. Uncheck the Allow Move option. This blocks emails from being moved from the enterprise account to, say for example, a personal email account. The advantage this gives you is that most email servers incorporate audit trails of emails. If you do allow a move, your audit trail's lost, so it's probably a good idea to uncheck this value. Use SSL ensures that the encryption and security is maintained end-to-end. Make sure this is checked. Next, enter the domain host or domain name, user and password using substitution variables. Click on Substitution and then select the variable from the list. By using the substitution variables during enrollment, you can prompt the user for these values during the enrollment process. In this manner, the user would enter their email account name and password to enable email on the device. Optionally, you could enter the domain name directly into this value if only one domain name is used within this policy. Past days to sync dictates how much email should be available to the device. Options include unlimited, days, weeks, or a month. Additional options are available for deploying certificates and for making the email iOS 4 compatible, but these are the minimum and typical entries to enable email on a device. Once complete, save your policy. You can create a Wi-Fi policy that automatically connects the device to Wi-Fi when the device is in range. Edit your policy and then select Wi-Fi. Click on Add and then enter the service set ID or the name of the network. Click on Hidden if the SSID is a hidden network. Select a security type from the drop-down list. Here, Wi-Fi Protected Access version 2 Enterprise is selected. From there, you can use substitution variables for user ID and password, which in this case were already captured during enrollment. This way, the user doesn't have to be prompted each time they connect. Optionally, you could check the per connection password checkbox to force a password check during each reconnection. Additional options are available to specific protocols, trusted certificates, and proxy settings. Click on Save to save your policy. Web clips provide a means by which a user can simply tap on an icon on the device and they'd be redirected to a website. Some of the more creative uses of web clips for iOS devices include training, notifications, news, or even videos from YouTube. Virtually any website can be used. To create a web clip policy, edit your policy and select web clip from the MDM payload list. Click on Add to add the policy. Enter a label which will be displayed on the icon on the device. Enter the URL, including either HTTP or HTTPS. This is required. Browse for an icon. Many different picture formats are supported. Click on Save to save your web clip. To deploy a policy, you must first link it to a group and then deploy the policies for the group. To do that, go to the Groups menu. Find your group, in this case iOS VIPs, and select the group. If there are devices in the group, an icon will be available on the menu bar to deploy policies to the group. Note that if there are no devices in the group, the icon will not be displayed. Click on the icon to deploy the policies to the group. All policies linked to the group are first consolidated and then deployed to the group. On the device, let's check to see that the policies were deployed. Select the Settings app and then General and Profiles. You can now see all the profiles that were deployed, including the main Afaria payload, deployed during enrollment, and the others, such as web clips, Exchange ActiveSync policy, passcode policy, and restrictions. Within the device settings, we can now see that a passcode policy is being enforced. In the Email app, there are now 2 email accounts. While a personal account already existed on the device, the new Enterprise Exchange ActiveSync email account has been deployed to the device as a policy and is now functional. You can select which account to view by selecting the appropriate mailbox. Note that the 2 accounts are managed separately. During a selective wipe, Afaria can remove the Enterprise account without affecting the personal account. This feature is a key enabler for BYOD, or Bring Your Own Device Management. We'll also check for our web clip. You can see the icon was loaded onto the iOS device, and the icon and associated name below the icon matches the policy. Now deployed to the device, the web clip will direct the browser to a website, in this case, the SAP Afaria information website. Deploying web clips to your devices are a convenient way to direct users to important information, and any URL can be used. This would include websites, videos, or virtually any URL. You should now be able to create an iOS configuration policy, create a passcode policy, create a restrictions policy, create an email policy, create a Wi-Fi policy, create a web clip policy, and know how to deploy policies.